This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on a Choice Making mandate. Get it on. And welcome to the best hour or so in the universe. It's Reasonable Doubt. I'm Adam Carolla. That's Mark Hardout. Soft Taco Garrigus coming to us live from New York City. Mark,
I had a bevy of soft tacos within the last 48 hours. So you nailed it.
Give me your taco power rankings, Mark.
Okay, I like the lamb number one.
Oh, so Armo.
Here I am. You can take the boy out of Armenia, but not the Armenia out of the boy. The number two is a real curveball. It's duck skin.
Wow.
Duck skin taco. And then number three is tough. There's a Korean steak, grandma's Korean steak or something they call it. And then I really like the carnitas. They do that. In fact, the other day, Jake made me a bowl of this roast pork, and I'm telling you, the dollop of guac on it, it was about as good as it gets.
All right. So now that we've gotten the compulsory taco rankings out of the way, you want to...
Let me tell you, they're very interesting couple of things in the last 24 hours. We'll get to the cases du jour, but for those of us in California, there's been two very interesting things in the medical and legal field. Today it was announced that John Eastman, who was a professor, I don't know that he still is, here in California, who spoke on January 6th and has been pilloried for advising Trump on various theories in regards to January 6th. The California State Bar just announced, I believe, 11 charges against Professor Eastman for basically not upholding the Constitution. And that comes within 24 hours on the heels of the case that Drew and I talked about, and then you and I talked about, which is, you may remember this AB, whatever it was, assembly bill that passed and the governor signed into law that prohibited doctors and penalized doctors for talking about COVID misinformation, which to my mind and your mind and Drew's, much to Drew, we had to peel him off the ceiling, was clearly, we were saying months ago, an unconstitutional infringement. Number one, on your free speech. Number two, on the ability to practice medicine. Number three, an invasion and a wholesale invasion on the patient doctor privilege. That was enjoined, I think yesterday. And Gary can give the names of the lawyers. I know that Miss Hamill was the local counsel, but I don't want to not give credit to the lead counsel. But a federal district court judge enjoined enforcement of that law.
What does that mean?
That means you're not going to be able to enforce it. Now I'm sure it's going to go up. Gary, there you go.
Well, California has a lot of kind of legal weather balloons that sound patently insane to me. And I'll give you two examples. One is there's this example, which is we're going to get between you and your doctor, and we're going to penalize the doctor for not giving you the correct information about COVID or whatever other, and disease comes down the pike. My question is who's the arbiter of that information in terms of what is correct and what is incorrect? Because you guys have been incorrect about everything. You incorrectly shut schools. You incorrectly touted the virtues of the vaccine. You incorrectly attacked certain alternative medicines. You never brought up diet and exercise. You incorrectly closed the beaches. You incorrectly hit your batting average on COVID, whether it was double masking or masking in between bites on an airplane or the effectiveness of a vaccine. You people have been wrong about everything. So of all people, you being the arbiter of what's accurate information about COVID between a patient and doctor sounds patently insane. But you do hear things like in California, like they go, well, Gavin Newsom's toying with the idea of if you leave California for a state that has a better financial tax and what have you climate, they're still toying with the idea of you paying taxes or reparations to the state. And I'm sitting around going, are they fucking nuts? What do they think they have?
I'm telling you, I think I mentioned this to you before. I've looked into this, and I believe the Franchise Tax Board takes the position they can follow you around for 10 years. That's their, and basically you've got to pay. You pay first, you litigate later.
I have a better solution for Gavin Newsom in the state of California. How about you create a climate where people don't want to leave? Call me crazy.
Well,
I know that's off the table, but California.
I'm staying and fighting, although I do toggle out of the state with great frequency. But my plan is to fight and to fight. This idiocy.
California says if you leave for Nevada, we can still charge you tax. You still have to pay taxes in California. We're going to float that weather balloon. We'd like to get between you and your doctor so we can okay conversations you're having about COVID. And if you're a minor and you would like to flee here without your parents' permission, we will give you gender reassignment surgery. Like, we are fucking nuts in this state. And I don't know that any of this is constitutional or legal or anything. And yet we keep trying. We
certainly push the envelope. I'll tell you, we certainly push the envelope. And, well, we could do a whole hour on this. I want to move on if you're okay. I was going to move on.
So the judge said the AB 109 or whatever it was, and that may be a submarine from World War II, but the judge said you can't enforce this.
And by the way, I haven't read the transcript yet. I've read the reporting on what kind of the questions and answers, and it sounds like this judge kept asking I believe it was a deputy attorney general, questions like, well, what is permissible? What isn't permissible? Where's that? And he couldn't answer the question. He said, and it was, well, if you're the lawyer who's defending the law and you can't answer the questions, then how do you expect either the doctor or the patient to be able to divine where the magical line is, right?
Absolutely. But to defend California, it's just more regulations, more rules, and more reasons for people not to hang their shingle here. What doctor in their right mind would want to come to a state with those rules?
It's beyond belief. And next week, I'll tell you my horror story about downtown LA. I'm still in the middle of it, and hopefully I'll resolve it. And then I'll give you the height of regulators run amok in downtown LA. The next case that is fascinating to me, just because there were opening statements yesterday, and then the first witness took the stand, I believe, today, is this Murdaugh case, which we've talked about before in South Carolina. Dick Harpootlian is trying it, and an attorney general named Wilson is trying it for the prosecution. He's charged with the murder of his wife, the murder of his son. Today in court, where they had the first witnesses, they had the opening statements yesterday. There was much chatter amongst the Twitterazis about who did the better opening statement, which I think it was a clear rout by the defense. I thought Dick Harpootlian did a magnificent job. But interestingly, today they put on, Gary, what was it, the 911 operator?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think it was a 911 operator from a neighboring county. And it came out that she testified that sometimes if your cell phone pings a tower that is not in the county that you're physically standing in, the call will get routed to that county's 911 operations center.
It's Yeah, where have we heard that before, Adam? I mean, I say this is the prosecution's first witness. And by the way, I've been telling, anybody who sat in a courtroom and watched a cross-examination of these people in the cell phone towers will tell you this is not GPS. This whole idea that you can track somebody from where the cell phone tower is pinging is at best a rudimentary guide. It isn't anything that you're going to be able to invest in terms of the proximity to where they are, except, arguably if you're 50 or 60 miles away. But I've had cases where guys have pinged from one coast to the other coast while just standing in the same place.
Really?
Yeah. It's what has the kind of the urban legend that has grown up around this is so frustrating to me, because people assume, oh, well, there was a cell phone tower and hit on this cell phone tower, they must be in the immediate vicinity of the cell phone tower. No, it's a function of the traffic on the tower and how many people are around, and it can change in the span of seconds.
Let me hit a quick spot here, Mark, and then we'll get back to your tower testimony. The investing team at our partner Fundrise expects 2023 to be one of the best real estate investing environments of the last decade, with rising interest rates driving down the prices of even the best assets. No wonder demand for alternative assets like real estate is exploding, with McKinsey forecasting up to $1.3 trillion in alternative assets growth in just the next 3 years. Fundrise, largest direct-to-investor alternative investment platform in the country, managing over $6 billion in assets, including real estate, all managed in-house. It is Fundrise. Right, Gary?
That's right. More than 1.5 million Fundrise users are now in a position to take advantage of this unique investing environment. Are you? Visit fundrise.com/doubt to join them in just minutes. That's fundrise.com/DOUBT. This is a Fundrise advertisement and is not a compensated testimonial or endorsement. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investments can lead to loss.
And there's a quick mea culpa, because I thought we were doing the full length beyond a reasonable doubt or reasonable doubt. I didn't know this was a beyond a reasonable doubt.
This is a full reasonable doubt, but because of time constraints and schedule shifts, Mark had proposed us doing a very shortened version of it.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
where the confusion arose, and that's my fault.
Minutes. That is your fault. All right. Sorry.
So going back to Murdaugh, so interestingly yesterday, what the prosecution revealed in their opening statement is that they now had a tape of a call, and that the tape of the call had the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, down at a dog kennel. He was talking about the dog killing either a hen or a rooster or a bird, a chicken. And so the argument was by the prosecutor, that shows he was down by the kennel. The cell phones locked of the two, his wife and his son, within 5 minutes of that. So therefore that disabused him of the alibi, because he had said to the cops he had never been down by the kennel. Mm-hmm. And that is morphed into that when the cell phone's locked, that must be when the deaths happen. Fascinating to me, because once again, just like the Idaho case that we talked about, once again, this is a changing timeline by the prosecution. In Idaho, they had a timeline, and when it turned out that they had evidence that came out that basically refuted the timeline, they moved the timeline, they changed it. We have a similar thing going on here. They had a timeline that had him at one point. Now the timeline's got him at another. It's just going to be fascinating as the evidence comes in, because a lot of times people invest so much into what the prosecution is telling them that when they actually gets into a courtroom and you've got cross-examination, there's a world of difference between what was represented to the public and to you and then what actually happens.
What do you make of the Paul Pelosi judge saying that he would like the camera footage from the officers released and let out to the public?
The rumor has it it's going to be tomorrow morning, and I will tell you that I've taken the position. I mean, I fought all the way to the Arizona Supreme Court on Shaver to get the body cam footage released there, and they wouldn't do it. And they said because it was a criminal case where the officer was being charged, they waited until he was acquitted, then released it, and that ended up costing them over $8 million to settle that case afterwards because people were so inflamed. Here you've got the DA, the now DA, saying we don't want to release it. You've got the defense saying we don't want it to come out because it'll prejudice the jury. That's kind of a odd position for the defense, and I will give you this coming attraction. I wish I could tell you because I kind of hinted a couple of weeks ago as to what were on those tapes. But I think tomorrow you may get some. You may be scratching your head, is what I will say. I don't want to reveal too much before it comes out, but you may be scratching your head as to why the defense was resisting this. It took, I believe, the New York Times to sue the DA's office and the SFPD to release the tape. And my big complaint has been, first of all, and I argued this in Arizona, the body cams are paid for with taxpayer money. If your courtroom is open to the public and you can't close your courtroom in a criminal case, why is it that you can say that the taxpayer-funded body cam footage is not available to the public? I don't understand that. And if you're going to take that position, then why is it that in all kinds of places around the country where the body cam footage is helpful to the police, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Why is it released then? When the accused or the deceased is a complete 14-karat asshole and you've got it on tape, you never see anybody hiding that or saying we're not going to release that footage. That footage is out before the news cycle is even ginned up. But when there is something that is going to cause public uproar, they fight tooth and nail before releasing that. And I think you're going to find that tomorrow.
You're going to find that it benefits the defendant?
I think it benefits the defendant. I think you'll see that tomorrow. And I do not understand why the defense, the PD can call me and explain it to me if they want, because I'm perfectly willing to change my mind. I just don't understand, having not personally seen it, but maybe having, hypothetically having it described to me. I don't understand why you wouldn't have taken the position that it's the public's right to know. I mean, there's been so much speculation. There's been so much that has been said out there about this gentleman's state of mind and everything else that it's perplexing to me. And like I said, I'm willing to be educated on this, and I'm completely speculating, but it's hard for me to understand. And then speaking of other things,
I want to put Gary on a quick search on the internet. I'm with you. I read the story and I read that the defense thought it would prejudice the jury and they didn't want it out. And I was sort of thinking about you and kind of going, I thought this tape might help your case if you were defending this man. So that was curious, and I'm glad we're both curious. But Gary, they showed that he broke into the back window or some version of that, but that doesn't seem to comport with whatever the conspiracy side of this is, that he literally broke out a window and went in through the side. Is there speculation about him going in through a broken window, or is that a settled science? And if that is, how do you get the conspiracy theory stuff when the guy physically broke in a house? I get the part where Paul Pelosi answered the door and allegedly let the cops go past him, or walked back into the house without letting the cops go past him. That part, but that doesn't really explain it flies in the face of I broke the back window and crawled into the house, doesn't it? Well,
it'll be interesting to see whether or not the guy who's now accused of all of this, what his demeanor looks like and what the interaction between the two of them looks like. And I think, the cynic in me also says, is this going to be somewhat embarrassing also to the police on top of everything?
Right. Yeah, because whenever they fight for it not to come out, there's usually something to it. Gary, did you find any info on that?
There's a variety of theories, but no, I'm not seeing one that's exactly how you're saying it. It's a lot of it seems to be that there was a window broken and glass was found on the outside, so people think it was broken from the inside. But there's also speculation that a third party opened the door, or there's kind of every theory you want is out there.
But do we know how he got into the house? And
supposedly what we do know is that there were cameras apparently that were supposed to be monitored, but apparently they weren't being monitored in real time. We know that the Pelosi account is that he was in bed, was awakened, and the intruder / accused was in the bedroom, and that he talked him into kind of, very skillfully kind of hostage negotiated his way into the bathroom, made the call to 911, and then when the police arrived, went downstairs. That's the official version.
Well, I got a last and a quickie for you, because we'll just wait till we see some of this vid that should be out tomorrow. Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
I was watching Tucker last night, and he was doing a whole kind of timeline and a breakdown, and Dr. Bodden, the forensic pathologist, he was like, I did not sign off on this as a hanging. This looks like a homicide to me. Bodden is like, I've worked in New York. I've looked at 1,800 hanging. I've studied the bodies of 1,800 people who have hung. This is not that. This is different than that. This looks like crushed, whatever, with hands on. This is homicide-y. And then the DA or whomever from New York just said, and Bill Barr said, hey, we've reached a conclusion. It was suicide. Nobody reached that conclusion. They just turned the page. Bill Barr said the cameras didn't work within the cell block, but we did have a camera on the front of the block, and nobody came in and nobody came out. Well, that may be true, but there's still a bunch of murderers that are in the cell block that moved around freely within the cell block. Doesn't mean one of them couldn't have killed Jeffrey Epstein. And they're just turning the page, just moving forward.
Remember when this first happened, Bill Barr, who was then the attorney general, whose father apparently was the headmaster at the school where Epstein first taught his math teacher, you might remember that. He was outraged at first. I mean, he made some public statements and fit to be tied. You might remember they also indicted two of the correctional guards, and then their cases kind of disappeared. If I'm not mistaken, they were either dismissed or there was some kind of diversion. Gary could probably.
I think the point is the cameras were out. The two guards the case was dismissed. And even though Dr. Bodden, who has 65 years experience in this field, said this doesn't look like a suicide to me, they went suicide. No more questions.
It was a deferred prosecution.
It's all
right. A deferred prosecution. By the way, for those of you who practice criminal law, tell me how many times you've gotten a deferred prosecution agreement. I can count them on two hands.
They did not find the body hanging. The body had been moved by the time the pathologists or the EMTs got there. There's a whole bunch of fishy shit.
I'll give you another one that I think is telltale. If I'm not mistaken, also, his defense lawyers had seen him within the previous, a pretty close period of time and said he was raring to go.
He thought he had a case. He thought he was going to win it. They also said that he attempted suicide earlier in the month. He said, I did not attempt suicide. I was beaten up by somebody who was running around.
believe it or not, I think he identified, or he said at least who it was, and I think reluctantly so, because that's the fastest way to get executed when you're in custody. By the way,
there is this great clip of Bill Gates. It's so great. Like, he's being interviewed on like the BBC, and they're like, "You hung out with Epstein quite a bit. Any lessons? Any regrets? What have you learned?" And he just went, "Well, he's dead now." So it was like, yes, he is.
My wife is using my relationship with him as the impetus for why she's divorcing me and taking billions of dollars from me.
I'm telling you, there's a lot more meat on that bone. All right, Mark is named Hard Out for a reason, and I've talked enough today as well. You can go to adamcarolla.com. Live shows everywhere. West Palm Beach coming up February 16th, and then Baltimore 17th, 18th, and Raleigh, and Naples, and all over the place. Kansas City. Just go to adamcarolla.com. What do you got, Mark?
Well, if you're in New York City, drop by Grand Central, stop by Prova or Dirty Taco. Ask for Jake if you're in Dirty Taco. If you're in Times Square, go by Love Pizza. And if you're looking for a Valentine's Day gift, go to alexandani.com and get something that's affordable yet meaningful and something she'll cherish.
Oh, we have this clip real quick. I think you're gonna enjoy this.
What a way to go out.
What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, and, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful.
Mark, turns out he's dead.
He's dead. He's dead. My wife got a cash payout. What can I do?
Yeah, if he was alive and testifying under oath, then there could have been lessons learned. But turns out
he's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead. Or to quote Nancy Pelosi, it is what it is.
That's right. That's right. Or Hillary Clinton. God, what was her Benghazi quote that was so great?
We came, we saw, he died.
Yes. So until next time, Adam Carolla for Mark Hard Out, Soft Taco Garriga saying, what difference does it make? Mahala.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.